This is war. The four major networks unite to present the fourth in their series for wartime America. Unite Your Army, written by Stephen Vincent Benet. Tyrone Power is our principal voice.
This is the Army. Ground, air, and supplies. Infantry. Cavalry. Artillery. Shout out the numbers are in store. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pursuit command, interception command, bomber command. Enemy planes sighted at 12,000 feet in Area 7. 12,000 feet in Area 7. Proceed to engage enemy. Selected 120 and number 1. Over 5 battery, 4,000. Over 5. This is the Army. Engineers, machine gunners, ordnance, quartermaster, mechanized and armored units, ski troops and parachute troops, everything that'll fly or roll or shoot. 34 divisions, 9 corps, 4 field armies training. This is the United States Army. 1,700,000 men. Sure. We know. We know this is the Army. Our Army. A people's army. Raised and equipped and run by a free people. Made up of Bill Jones and Benny Cohen and Stan Witzinski, Bert Anderson and Charlie Pappas, the kid who dropped out of college when he heard about Pearl Harbor, and the blonde kid who used to pop sodas at the combination drugstore last year. That's our Army. And we know that. But how much do we know? What's an army about? What's it for? A free people's army. Let's go back just a minute and see. Go back to the roots of the nation. Article 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is the Second Amendment to the Constitution. The men who passed it had been through a long, hard war to make their free state. They knew how that state must be kept. And remember what Washington said? To be prepared for war is one of the most effectual means of preserving peace. The free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined. Washington spoke from experience. He'd seen his men starve. He'd seen them taste like foxes. Here's one of his generals, writing a letter home.
The whole Army has now gone into winter cantonment, excepting General Nixon's and my brigade, who are now in the field, 800 of my men without shoes or stockings, enjoying the sweets of a winter campaign, while the worthy and virtuous citizens of America are enduring the hardships, toils, and fatigues incident to parlors with good fires and sleeping on beds of down.
Forget it? Of course. It happened over 150 years ago. And we won that one, didn't we? Yes. But let's just hear one more witness. The father of the idol of the South. The cavalryman they called Light Horse Harry Lee.
Government is the murderer of its citizens, which sends them to the field uninformed and untaught. They're there to meet men of the same age, mechanized by education and discipline.
Pretty grim, isn't it? Pretty businesslike. And pretty contemporary. Are you listening, gentlemen of Congress? That was Batavia, falling. Are you listening, you good, decent, honest, peace-minded Americans? And you're all of that, who didn't see and couldn't see why our country needed a real army? We forgot, of course. We're apt to forget between wars, forget the voices and the warnings. We cut the standing army down to 80 men, right after the Revolution. And in 1812, we fought another war. And we were invaded and our capital was burned. But we won that one. And in 46 and 61, we fought other wars.
That place! It's that place!
Yes, Sergeant, what's the trouble?
There's 200 men with their rifles just come down here from the hills of Kentucky. They all want to enlist at once, and I just can't do a thing with it.
Well, where are men? Where are men?
Hell, they don't want to be swore in. They just want to know where this place called Matamoros is. And how soon can they get there and start shooting?
Yes, that's the spirit. That's always been the spirit. And in 61.
We are a band of brothers devoted to the toil, fighting for our poverty, against by our despoil. And when the ranks of heaven, we loudly cry, hurrah, hurrah for the bunny blue flag that goes to the single star. Your throne, Father Abraham, 300,000 strong, from Mississippi's winding stream and from New England north. We are coming, our union to restore. We are coming, Father Abraham, with 300,000 more.
A good spirit. A fine spirit. No better fighters on earth than the men who fought with Scott and Taylor, Lee and Grant. And the regular army, small, handicapped, kicked around in peacetime like a football, did its job without brag or bluster, and did it well. But the boys who died at Matamoros and First Bull Run died only too often as Light Horse Harry Lee said they shouldn't die, uninformed and untrained. They died at Chickamauga in 98 of fever. They died on San Juan Hill. They went to France in 17 and 18. 2 million of them, first and last. We know what they did there. The German General Staff said we couldn't put an army in the field. We put 2 million men. They broke the enemy's front and went to the Rhine. Then we demobilized. Gladly. Wasn't the world at peace? Well, you know what happened. But this time we did make some plans. For the first time in history, we raised a draft army before war fell on us. Raised it fair and square, by lot and law. Raised it out of just the same sort of Americans who fought at Trenton and Cerro Gordo, Chancellorsville and Pentigny. And we've got it now. And it's working. Forget the past for a moment. Forget even the heroic names of the past. This is war. And this is now. Not yesterday. Not Gettysburg or the Marne, the Alamo or Chateau Thierry, but now. That's a map of the world, the whole round globe of Earth. It's in the office of the Chief of Staff at Washington, General George C. Marshall. He is the 10th man in all our history to wear the 4 silver stars of a full general. He is the first American general who ever had to plan a grand strategy that took in all the world. The quiet room, the central brain cell of the Army. The men who go in and out of it wear uniforms. The man who sits at the big desk wears a uniform. Otherwise, it's rather like any executive office. There's no spur jingling or table pounding. The papers flow in and out, and the calls go in and out, night and day, from the 3 great branches of the Army: ground, air, and supply. Red tape? Brass hat? I thought you'd ask about that. We're a funny people that way when it comes to our Army. We wouldn't hire a lawyer who'd never been to law school. We wouldn't employ a surgeon who'd never done an appendectomy. But if a man has been schooled and trained all his life in the theory and practice of war, why, he's a red-tape brass hat and everybody's free to criticize. And yet, war is also a profession. Ask the actors. I wonder just who are the red-tape brass hats. MacArthur, the West Point graduate, sat in this room once. Or the country club strategist who tells us all how to win the war over cocktails. Marshall, the VMI graduate. Or the congressman from South Overcoat who never fired a gun. Yes, I wonder sometimes. We pay General Marshall $8,000 a year. That's not very big money, is it? And the same to MacArthur for holding off 200,000 Japs on Luzon. shortwave.
Hello? Hello, Brad. This is Jimmy. Yeah, I'm talking from Ulster. We just landed. Well, I guess I was the first guy ashore, so the old man said I could broadcast. Oh, yeah, it's fine, and the folks are swell here. Yeah, I got my clean socks on. Yeah, remember me to Judge and the boys.
That was a private in the United States Army talking from Northern Ireland. And here.
Yes, Susie. I hope this finds you okay, just as it leaves me. It's cold around here, but a guy who's used to Minnesota can't quit. Pretty scenery, too. So the farm's different. Well, we've got a job to do, and I guess we mean to do it. All the same, Susie, I'd kind of like to hear from you. Your last letter was swell, but I ain't had one since. You might write a guy once in a while.
That was a corporal attached to our task force in Iceland. Now,
enemy activities during the past 24 hours were negligible. It is believed the Japanese plans for the renewal of the offensive were dislocated by our successes in the Subic Bay air attack.
that was MacArthur's men. Tonight, from the foxholes of Bataan. Still holding. And here,
Reporting to Chief of Staff. American Task Force B safely landed at Rendezvous K in South Pacific.
Ireland, Iceland, Luzon, Batavia, Alaska, the Caribbean, halfway around the world. American troops are marching. American planes are flying. But why? Why? We're defending ourselves, aren't we? We built an army for defense, didn't we? So why do we have to fight all over the map? Listen, here's your answer. You hear that? That's the B-19, the biggest bomber yet built in the USA. So big that when a pilot wants to rev up a motor, he doesn't do it himself. He phones someone else to do it. So big she can carry 18 tons of bombs from New York to Athens and back, 7,000 miles under her own power. So big that she just got finished and already outmoded.
Outmoded?
Yes. But we learned a lot from making her. And on the drawing boards now are airplane motors that develop even more thousands of horsepower. They'll be made, and they'll fly the planes and keep them flying. How far? Maybe halfway around the world. The world has shrunk like a squeezed orange. Old tools of war are obsolete.
Absolute.
You can bomb Detroit from Brest. You can bomb Pearl Harbor from the waste of the Pacific. You can bomb Philadelphia from Iceland. And what stops the bombers? You have to have bases to stop them. You have to have hangars and ground crews and landing fields where your own planes can take off. You have to have guns and men to protect those bases.
Last night, I was over Berlin. Tonight, I'm here in Boston. An odd sensation, rather. But it happened. I caught the ferry plane.
That British pilot. You've read about him in the papers. Last night, Berlin. Tonight, Boston. And that's just the air. Just one huge phase of modern war. What about the ground?
The Hauptbahnhof, 3 miles.
That was a single German tank unit in the Battle of France. In the last war, an advance of 63 miles usually meant weeks of fighting, the lives of thousands of men. But this is mechanized war, modern war, war of rupture, war that flies through the air at 400 miles an hour, war that spills and runs like quicksilver on lands and homes that only yesterday were peaceful and miles away from the gun. War fought around the curve of Earth, quick-hitting, hard-striking, sudden, deadly. Call the roll. Have we got the tools to fight it? What tools have we got? What machines?
Well, here's one of them. Mechanical range computer. What the boys call a jukebox in anti-aircraft. Kind of a brainy old buzzard. Hooks up with the rangefinder and the sound locator and the searchlight. Figures out the speed and altitude and range of enemy planes and then sets the gun so your shells burst on the target. Careful by its little self once you turn those wheels. And it doesn't make mistakes. When you start coming over, Mr. Hitler, just remember the jukebox, boys.
Modern war. War of machines and skills, of dials and calibrations and micrometers. War we're able to fight because we know about them. Because when we want, we can make the best machines in the world. You've heard about our bomb sights. Well,
mean, she's everything they say. Looks good. Looks good. Listen, soldier, with that little hipper-dipper, you can drop a bomb in a pickle barrel once you've got the know-how. That's how Kelly and his bombardiers sank the Haruna. And they weren't shooting wild. They knew how. Now, just take a... What's that? 155 millimeter gun, sir. Force, $50,000. Weight, 30,000 pounds. Fires a 95-pound shell nearly 15 miles. What's moving? Well, you can hold it around by bucket cycling. Camouflage. You can use it right behind your front line. We call this one Kate Smith. She's a honey. We're going to need a lot of... Hear that? You folks in the shop? How many Kate Smiths are coming off the production line? How many can you make? 50 caliber machines on air cool. Automatic, used by motorized infantry. Terrific hitting pump. But how many? How many? The triangular division needs plenty of machine guns. And every production day counts in this kind of war. We could show you the light tanks and the mediums, the range-finders and the fuse-timers and all the tools of modern war. We could show you the Jeep. Come in, Jeep. How fast can you travel, Jeep?
60 miles an hour on good roads, but I mean, and a bad one. My mother was a Tin Lizzie and my father was a Jackrabbit. Our hardcore men and their stuff without home machine guns and mortars. I'm a cross-country runner and a bulldozer, and I'm afraid to tell before breakfast gets here. Give me room. I got the jump from free and the cut to the carrier, and I'm hard to kill. Tell me, that's me. Jeep.
Thank you very much, Jeep.
Oh, me southpaw. Can a guy have a little dignity when he's on the air?
Okay, Scout Car. Dismissed. Sure. We could show you all those. We could show you other things and take all night showing them, because for every man we put in the front line, there are something like 8 men behind us. And if those men aren't on the job, the man at the front is out of luck. The people we're going to talk to now don't always get their names in the papers. But if they weren't on the job, we wouldn't have an army. What's your job, soldier?
Me? I cook for the 4th Battery. Boy, can those buzzards eat.
Must be a pretty soft job just cooking for a gang of soldiers.
Says you. You just listen to 'em howl when the scout don't shoot 'em. Not that I blame 'em. They food me a cut to make a soldier, and that's my job.
Well, anyhow, it sounds like a nice, easy detail.
Yes, says you. You ever up in the Argonne?
No.
Well, I was. Nice, quiet place to cook for Battery, the Argonne. Just as nice and quiet and safe as a 4-alarm fire. I drew 3 months hospital. It wasn't because I got wounded opening tin cans.
Thanks, soldier. And, by the way, I've got a message for you.
Yeah?
The sergeant said to be sure to ask you how you were fixed for lemon extract.
Lemon extract? I don't flat-sided son of... Lemon extract? There, you get out of my kitchen before I taste it.
I wonder what made him so sore. Didn't mean to do it. You make a battery cook sore and you're in for trouble. Oh, here's somebody with a hat cord I don't recognize. Maroon and white. Excuse me, soldier. Could you tell me just why you've got a different hat cord from these other men?
Medical corps, sir.
Oh, that is medical corps.
Yes, sir. I'm a pill roller. Stretcher bearer in action. This is my field kit.
You seem to be pretty well supplied.
Has to be, sir. Casualties have to be prepared.
And tell me, do you go out under fire?
Wouldn't do much good if I didn't, sir. The faster you can get the wounded out, the better chance they've got.
Thank you. And you? First sergeant, signal corps. Used to be a telephone line. That's my job. I thought nowadays it was all radio. Oh, we got good radio. Got the walkie-talkie. That's a 2-way radio outfit one man can carry on his back. Used for liaison communication. But we still need telephones and installation. Still need men to carry the lines to the front and repair them. Keep them working no matter if all hell's breaking. This kind of army needs both wireless and wire. And men who can work them both. I can see that. And you?
I'm a quartermaster sergeant. Sure, we count blankets, we count shoes, we hand out the rations. Well, that's all they'll tell you we do. But if the grub doesn't get to the railhead, and if it doesn't get from there to the crooks, the guy up front's going to go pretty hungry. And if his shoes don't fit and he goes lame, he's a soldier out of action.
Thanks. That's just a few of the skills and services that go to the making of an army. And right where the shooting starts... Oh, would you come up to the mic a minute, soldier, with the blue hat cord and the crossed rifles on your collar? Who are you and what's your job?
I'm infantry. I'm Private Dogface. I'm Private 1 million.
Draft number 2985. Dog tag number 893-247. Otherwise, I'm just the guy who occupies ground. They land me in planes from the air. They shoot me up to the front in trucks and scout cars. But a lot of the time, still, I walk. Yeah. Even with all the wheels and machines of modern war, I walk, I creep, I dig, and I burrow, and I wiggle ahead. I take cover, and I creep from cover, and I hold the line. I hide all day in the foxholes under the bombing. And last out, I marched with the Continentals, and I marched with the Army of the Valley, and in France, I went ahead through the week. And I'm still marching. I'm blind without planes, and you gotta give me planes. I can't fight tanks with my bare hands, and you gotta give me tanks. I'm not artillery, and you gotta give me guns. But when all's said and done, I'm the guy who holds the ground. I'm not just a foot slogger with a rifle in this new army. I'm a member of a combat team, trained like a football squad, with plenty of the razzle-dazzle stuff, the Notre Dame stuff, and the Army stuff, and the Rose Bowl stuff of modern war. My first job, and my last, is to take the ground and hold the ground. I may do it 40 miles an hour. I may do it 2 miles a day. I'm going to be cold and wet, hungry and thirsty, and tired beyond tiredness. I'm going to see my friends die. Hear the wounded cry out like a whispering field. But I'm going ahead, and I'm going to win. The ground gripper, the infantry, Private Dogface of the U.S. Army. And what are we going to do, sitting here at our radios? Squabble some more? Write letters to the papers? Hoard sugar? Curse out the government? Spread the lies that divide a people? Hold up in a silly sweat every time there's bad news? There's bad news now, and there's going to be bad news for quite a while. The Army knows that. Our enemies aren't pushovers. They are skillful, savage, and relentless. They've trained for years for this chance to enslave the world, and that's just what they mean to do. They'll use every trick and tool. On the other hand, they aren't supermen. They didn't come down from Mars. They can be licked, and they will be licked, by men. Not by men without machines or by machines without men, but by men fighting for freedom with the right sort of tools in their hands. And taste this one in your hat. It wasn't just the snow and the cold and the mud that bogged down the German drive in Russia. It was a fighting army and a fighting people. It wasn't just tradition and Magna Carta that stopped the Luftwaffe cold in the Battle of London. It was a fighting air force and a fighting people. We've got the fighting army, and it's going to fight all the way around the curve of Earth. Men are going to die. Very good men are going to die. They're going to die in the jungle for the shape of a Virginia field and the crossroads store back home. They're going to die in the cold for the clear air of Montana and the smell of a New York street and the church where they used to go if they went to church. For some things they learned at school and for some things we've all of us learned. For 3 words cut in gray rock: duty, honor, country. And for an idea called freedom. I'm not going to use the big words. I'm not going to talk about sacrifice or in vain. We are going to know such sacrifices as we have not known since Valley Forge. And unless we win this war, even that will be in vain. It's you that I'm talking to. And you, all over America. We've got a fighting army. Let's show them a fighting people. You see, armies differ. In some countries, an army means a steely political machine, dominating the government, trampling on the rights of the people. What's our army? Let's hear from one of its historians. It has a soul of its own. It is nothing in itself. It is everything as an organ of government. It has no political aims, no political ambitions. Its commander-in-chief is a civilian. It is the people's army, and theirs alone. In some countries, an army is run by a heel-clicking military caste.
Get into the cover, you civilian swine. Don't you know the sidewalk is for officers?
You step aside. Certainly, Capitan. To prepare, Herr Capitan.
No. That isn't our army, and it never has been. We have our training school for regular officers, West Point. Money won't get you into West Point, and neither will a social register. No graduate of West Point has ever tried to upset the political system of this country. No graduate of West Point has ever tried to build up a ruling military caste. They are men who do their hard jobs for less than civilian wages. And when they retire, for a few of them, there's a medal in a box and a flag hung up on the wall of a cramped suburban apartment. And for others, there are the graves. The graves in Arlington, at Poisson, in the cemetery at Manila, in the unmarked ground. The graves mark,
Here lies an American soldier, known only to God.
but meanwhile, they do their job and they live up to their specifications. Duty, honor, country. That's our ruling military caste. And the others, well, you know them. The lawyer, the doctor, the florist, the man you take the 510 with, the hacker, the clerk, the farmer, everybody who's got somewhere a piece of paper with the seal of the United States on it and the words, honorable discharge. That's our army, the people's army, and their sons are in it today. It's an old army and a new one. It goes back to the cross-belted Continentals and the farmers who held their fire at Bunker Hill. It's Dan Morgan's riflemen and Stonewall Jackson's foot cavalry and the Rainbow Division and the men who hold Luzon. It's the dandy silk-stocking outfits from the cities and the sergeant with half a dozen hash marks. The shave tail fresh from the point with his class ring shiny on his finger and Private Percy of the kitchen police. It's an army that calls its leaders Marse Robert and Old Jack, Ulysses and Old Iron Pants and the Green Hornet. An army with its tongue in its cheek and its gun in its hand. A disciplined army, you bet, but our own kind of discipline. An army that takes the machines like a duck to water. The fighting army of the American people. Of the people, by the people, and for the people. First, last, and all the time. Are you back of it? Listen.
This is the army. This is your army. The United States Army. Let's go! We got the trumpet, we got the voice, we got the axe and the action point. The great big axe for the great big boy. Here they come. Toe to toe. We are the army. The American army. The United States Army. That's time. The beat to the bomb, the drum, the tank, and the ranks of the army. We're going to bring the family through. Rock and hold, brothers, man. That's the time. We're fighting for freedom, and folks, we remember. The girls, we remember. The land of the free. It's a long, tough march and a long, tough war, but we're going to get what we're fighting for. And it's hit the tide of the old hard north. United States Army for me. This is War. You have just listened to Your Army, written by Stephen Vincent Benet and starring Tyrone Power, who appeared by courtesy of the Hollywood Victory Committee. The original musical score was composed and conducted by Morton. Norman Corwin was director of the broadcast, and Howard Nussbaum assistant director. At the same time next week, the four major networks again unite the resources of American radio to present another program, The United Nations. This is War.